I think the boss has tried to please too many people, especially with the money that we're spending at the moment. And I say no. Let's rein it in a little bit. Let's be a proper conservative government, a government of low taxation, an aspirational government. Let's connect with the working class. Because remember, working class people are naturally conservative in this country. It's when I bang on about the green levy and the green journey, the net zero stuff, they just don't, and fracking and the new coal mine in Cumbria, just don't seem to get it. Some of my colleagues, some do. What the government has actually done is spent over £400 billion of taxpayers' money, not government money. There's no such thing as government money. It's taxpayers' money. I'm all right, mate. Thanks for having me on your excellent YouTube channel.
Thank you so much. Well, we're now joined by the special guest, Lee Anderson, one of the sound Tory MPs for Ashfield, who's fast becoming one of the most popular down-to-earth MPs in Parliament. How are you, Lee?
I'm all right, mate. Thanks for having me on your excellent YouTube channel.
Thank you so much. A lot of our subscribers and people on social media and across the country, we keep getting emails about you. You've been standing up for real people up and down the country. And I want to kind of focus on a couple of different things, apart from your local area. First, you've been clashing with the left-wing MPs in the Commons when it comes to the Rwanda plan. And you have pointed out that, in a light-hearted way, that France is not an unsafe country. You obviously hang out with these people. They're still your colleagues in the Palace of Westminster. Why do you think, if you put yourself in their shoes, why do you think there's this opposition against Rwanda? Because obviously we from the outside, we make jokes saying that, is this racism against Rwanda? Why do they hate Rwanda so much?
Well, I think what it is, mate, I think they're out of touch. I think a lot of MPs in this place have been here far too long. They're detached from the real world. They, especially in the red wall areas, a lot of these red wall seats went to the Conservatives for the first time, to candidates like me who are actually in touch with the real world. Now, some of these Labour MPs and the SNPs especially, I don't think they spend that much time in the constituency, because if they did, they would probably be asking the same questions as what I'm asking and many of my colleagues. Look, the Rwanda scheme has got to work. We've got a massive problem in the channel. The nice weather's coming. It's going to get worse and worse and worse until we sort it out. We're scrapping the Human Rights Act and having our own Bill of Rights. And quite frankly, all I do, Mayor, when I go into that chamber, I try and speak like somebody from Ashfield speaks, and I ask the same questions that a man or a woman in Ashfield would ask. That's all I'm trying to do, and eventually this lot down here might just get it.
Yes, absolutely. Hopefully you didn't assume people's genders, by the way, because they're men and women. But we're dealing with a lot of stuff right now. I mean, yeah, you guys are obviously clashing with a lot of areas. When it comes to Ashfield itself, we actually had this question from our political editor, Peter Barnes, who asked me to ask you. You are a rare creature in the Commons, because you focus vocally about how you're a constituency MP. Of course, you focus on a couple of national issues when it happens, like Rwanda stuff, like the strikes. But you're very proud of vocally saying that I want to focus on Ashfield. I want to be an MP for my constituents. But we don't really feel that many of other colleagues that you have MPs in Parliament from all parties, really. Not everybody's like that anymore. What's your theory behind it?
Well, for me, mate, it's personal. I was born in Ashfield. I've never lived more than 5 miles from where I was born. My children were born at the same hospital as me. They went to the same schools as me. When I'm getting new schools rebuilt in Ashfield, they're the schools that I went to. When I'm getting extra cash for the local hospital, that's the hospital that I was born in. That's the hospital that saved my life. Everything I do, it's got a personal aspect to it. So when I applied to be an MP or a candidate, I only applied for Ashfield. I didn't apply for anywhere else. I wanted to be the Member of Parliament for Ashfield. That's all. I didn't want to be parachuted into anywhere else. And it's a privilege to do this job. I feel incredibly proud. And when I get home at the weekend, when I get away from this bubble, the first thing I do is go into the local pub, the local shops, go to the local park, speak to real people who live in the real world. And they bring me back down to earth. Make no bones about it. The Ashfield folk, they're a truthful bunch. They tell me how it is. If I've messed up in this place and said something I shouldn't have said, that's not happened yet, by the way. But if I do, then they'll tell me. But mostly I get back on a Friday and say, you know what, Lee, you're saying exactly what we're all thinking.
I think that's a key point because people like yourself, the reason that you become popular, especially amongst our subscribers, is because you're a Conservative MP, but you're also an individual. You focus on your local area, so you're not really completely a sellout, but you're also still a team player. So there's a lot of potential, basically, as a politician, that people want to see more MPs like yourself, who's not a complete robot, just repeating the party lines, but at the same time, you have the core Conservative values that for a long time, people assume that people in Ashfield, for example, don't want them. But do you think your opposition have actually in the local area have learned from the mistakes in 2019 and previously? Are they now finally trying to be in touch with the workers or not?
No, absolutely not. In fact, they're probably lurching the other way. They're still banging on about Brexit. They're still, they're still complaining in my area. What is the Brexit benefits? What has it done for this country? This don't let it drop. I mean, a smart politician or smart campaigners would actually say, you know what, let's move on, let's crack on, let's embrace the good bits. If there are any bad bits, let's try and make them better. But no, they're still trying to have that argument in the streets of Ashfield. And quite frankly, 70% of people in Ashfield voted to leave the European Union. They ain't changing their mind anytime soon. So any political party that comes along and tries pitches, trying to pitch to get back in the European Union, well, they're on a hard into nothing. And the advantage I've got, Mayor, like I say, I'm embedded in the community. I speak with the same accent as people in Ashfield. They know I am. And when I go into the villages and towns, people will stop and chat to me. And you know what? 10 years ago, a Tory MP would have been chased out of town.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Obviously, we mentioned your strengths, but to be the devil's advocate, we actually do have still a lot of problems with the government, the kind of the Tory party at the top, a lot of issues, not just the cost of living crisis, because that's still a massive problem anyway, but generally speaking, in terms of management, in terms of the way the country has been run. What's your view on that? Is there any hope? Are we going to basically have the Tory party losing the next election? Is there a way to have redemption, having the good old Boris to come back and kind of be Conservative again, or is it a lost cause?
Well, the one thing I've learned in this job, and remember, I've only been an MP for 2.5 years, but the main thing I've learned is things that change very, very quickly down here. You can start, you can start on a Monday, be thoroughly depressed. You go home on a Thursday or a Friday, whenever you go home, you can be on a real high, and that's what it's like. Politics. It's like being a manic depressive. It really is for me. You're either really, really happy or really, really down. And that's not healthy, but that's just politics. And I think the problem we've had at the moment through COVID and that, I think the boss has tried to please too many people, especially with the money that we're spending at the moment. And I say, no, let's rein it in a little bit. Let's be a proper Conservative government, a government of low taxation, an aspirational government. Let's connect with the working class. Because remember, working class people are naturally conservative in this country, but they've just never voted Conservative. And that's what we changed in 2019.
So do you have robust conversations with government ministers, kind of basically tell them off, or kind of try to let them know what people are actually thinking outside?
Yeah, I think the most robotic conversation, and I won't name names, but is when I bang on about the green levy and the green journey, the net zero stuff. They just and fracking and the new coal mine in Cumbria just don't seem to get it. Some of my colleagues, some do, but I think we're just playing into the hands of the lefties, the environmentalists, and that. Meanwhile, in places like Ashfield, I've got a little old lady who's worried about paying a gas bill next month. And when we talk about nuclear fusion and wind farms and solar, that doesn't mean jack to the old people in my community. They just want to switch their light on, or they want to put the gas fire on and not pay astronomical amounts for their fuel bills. They're not bothered where it comes from.
No, absolutely spot on. Speaking of the lefties, last question. We are having this massive debate when it comes to rail strikes. We're going to have the rail strikes, and then it's encouraging all the other militants, the political trade unionists who are from teaching unions to the health unions. They're all basically saying, because of the rail strikes, we're also going to go on strikes. You come from a real working class background, and you've dealt with these sort of areas before, the trade unions. Is this the 70s again, or what's going on?
What I would say, Mayor, we've been through a difficult time over the past couple of years, whether you agree with the lockdowns or not. What the government has actually done is spent over £400 billion of taxpayers' money, not government money. There's no such thing as government money. It's taxpayers' money to keep this country afloat. Now, just a few months after, what's happening? You've got these unions now trying to hold us to ransom, and we've come to the most difficult part of my lifetime. It's like coming out of a war in the 40s. We've got to pay this money back, and what they're doing, they're holding the country to ransom And I think these union leaders, these greedy fat cat union leaders on 150 grand a year, quite frankly, should be ashamed of themselves.
No, absolutely. It is becoming very, very political at this point. They are using the workers and their members as a shield, pretending that it's in their interest, but not really. But I want to say massive thank you for coming on the show. There is a hashtag Lee4PM on the channel that keeps trending. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I don't know about that. You know, I never in my wildest dreams expected to be a member of Parliament. I'm enjoying the job. I'm enjoying the challenge, and I will keep speaking out for those people, not just in Ashfield, but I do get lots of emails from people saying you speak for us, and I'll keep doing that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.